Games are designed to engage players, and one of the most important ways in which they do it is through pacing. Pacing refers to the interactions over time between the player and the game. The pacing of the game dictates a lot about the perceived player experience, as a poor-paced game can feel either sluggish or boring, or on the contrary, too hectic and difficult to grasp. A well-managed pace will help the game by increasing immersion, engagement, and flow. And as it happens, base defense games, especially their billions, are doing great work on managing player space as well as offering them meaningful choices on how to manage it by themselves. But how can the strategy genre evolve to engage players by managing pace? Hey, I'm Gabriel Chauri, welcome to Game Design Thinking. As always, you can get a one-page summary of the information on the video in the description below. So let's not lose our pace and let's keep talking about pacing. As you may know, base defense games like TAUR Billions, Age of Darkness or Diplomacy is Not an Option are a subset of the RTS genre focused on defending your base against waves of enemies. These simple yet deep systems, when well designed, will create the kind of experience in which you can spend many hours without even noticing, as the key elements that contribute to pacing are taken into account. TAUR Billions, as well as most base defense games, nails most of them. The most important feature of pacing is intensity, and most base defense games have a huge advantage when managing intensity. The core gameplay loop is based on waves of enemies, so the game constantly varies intensity between high action moments when the wave stacks versus low action, deep strategy thinking moments when preparing the base for the next wave of attackers. This is not exclusive to base defense games though. Games like Left 4 Dead have used the AI director system to manage the intensity of encounters, allowing players to refresh and wind down after an action-packed encounter. The following important feature is progression, which is usually linked to the game's narrative. Players should have a sense of progression to appreciate the pace of the game. To communicate progression, games usually stop the player from playing by adding a score screen, a map screen, a cutscene, or any combination of them. This moment is used to communicate narrative, which is later reinforced in the gameplay. Also, it is important that players feel that they are making an impact in the game world. TAUR Billions does brilliantly at this, as players have means to evaluate their performance after each level, as well as watching how defeating the waves is increasing the kingdom territories. Finally, the last feature for managing pacing is variety and challenge, which is where most base defense games face their major problems. The core gameplay loop in itself calls for repetition. Explore to get resources, defend against enemy waves, and repeat until you succeed or get bored. There's little variety in the formula, and most games have struggled with this. TAUR Billions introduce different types of missions, and although these work for the first part of the game, they become repetitive very soon. And also they are essentially disconnected from the main gameplay loop. Also, waves of enemies are mostly based on non-intelligent, face-first and similar type of enemies, which doesn't entice players to create defensive structures in new ways or use a variety of units, usually sticking with just one way of defending and using the more powerful units. Also, especially in games with a type of survival mode, sticking with the wrong way of defensive structures can cost hours of gameplay, as the defenses will remain in place and there's no way to change them easily. Others have tried to introduce the concept of procedural maps, but besides changing the level, the core gameplay loop doesn't change at all, so the challenge remains the same. And talking about the challenge, most base defense games have struggled to reach or maintain their players because of problems with the challenge level. Some players can't get past the first levels in TAUR Billions, as it's a very challenging and punishing game. If one zombie crosses your defenses, you better start a new game. Others have the same problems, and although we can agree that some players may like this extra hardcore challenge, it can be that this challenge level is there just to hide the repetitiveness of the gameplay, and in other cases just the overall lack of content. Going back to the initial statement, we can see that base defense games available in the market nail most of the critical features for having good pacing, which explains in part why the genre is living a revival of sorts. They have great management of intensity between resource management plus base building and horde defense. Most of them, likely because of the inheritance of classic RTS games, have good management of progression through narrative, but where they are mostly failing is in adding variety and challenge. Looking to other genres like action FPS or action adventure can give great clues on how to manage variety in gameplay. A more powerful metagame which is impactful and helpful, as well as allowing players room to explore, and more dynamic management of the challenge level compared to players' perceived skill are tropes that action games have been using for decades now. It could be interesting to see a more responsive challenge level, as well as adding more synergy between units, so there are more ways to defend your base, other than just sheer numbers. As with most things, this is easier said than done though, as there are many technical intricacies that can make this difficult to implement. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for sticking until the end. I would love to read your comments about this topic. Do you know of a base defense game that's nailing all of the features of pacing? Maybe a game from another genre? Also remember that you can download a one-page summary of the information on the video in the description below. And see you soon, fellow game designer.